Top of the morning, man. Today I have none other than we got a case today. It is THF46 Walt, man. This is none other than the uncle of FBG Duck, THF Raheem's father, the cousin to FBG Duck's mom. Yeah, man, we're going to get into this. If you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button and thumb up this video, as it's going to get my video out to new subscribers, and that's imperative for the growth of this channel. And also, this is I wanted to piggyback off of Truth Teller's video with the Mama Duck interviews. Man, some good content over there. If you haven't done so already, go check that out. But yeah, she referenced her uncle in that. Her cousin that lived on 46, and that duck never lived on 46, right? And we found this out, and then I was like, wow, man, we actually think we have his paperwork, and so we have it. So we're gonna go ahead and drop this now. So if you haven't done so already, definitely hit that subscribe button. All right, for the first document we have is a case supplementary report. This is a closed non-criminal document, and the last offense classification for this offense was a homicide / justifiable homicide by law enforcement, which is interesting. All right, the date of occurrence was October 11th, 2005, 23:39 hours through October 11th, 2005, 23:39 hours. So, all right, and the date this was submitted was November 7th, 2005. At 15:43 hours. This is a field investigation closed non-criminal report. All right, we have one victim, Armstrong Walter, male, black, 25 years at the time. His description is he was 6'2", 200 pounds, black hair, short hairstyle, brown eyes, medium brown complexion. All right, we have a suspect, listed names, none, male, white. All right, and we have the victim's injuries. Type of injury is a gunshot. Weapon used was a handgun. Weapon description, other 6 Sauer 45 caliber semi-automatic. All right, and Armstrong Walter was transported to the hospital. It says the motive codes for this homicide is a UUW, unlawful use of a weapon, cause code DNA, method code person shot, CAU code police related. All right, so we're getting down into an investigation here. Excuse me. We have related numbers, related RD numbers. Seems to be an aggravated. Right. We have the victim, Cantrell Armstrong, name Armstrong Walter, shot by police officer Curry, John Curry. All right. Okay, working BT 465, unmarked, squad in plain clothes. Injuries: Armstrong received a gunshot wound to the left side of his chest, exiting the right side, fatal. He was taken to hospital. Weapon officer had was a 6 Sauer, so that's the 6 Sauer P20, 220, 45 caliber. Armstrong also had a weapon, HK USP compact 45 caliber semi-automatic. Okay. Weather and lighting at the time of the homicide: clear, warm, with good artificial street lighting. Manner and motive: the victim was shot by police officer Curry after he pointed his weapon at him, and police officer Sanchez defeat arrest. Identified by: the victim was identified by his Illinois state identification card, which was on his person. Formal identification was made by family members at a later time. Vehicle used: the victim was in a 1994 red Ford Thunderbird 2-door, 2, temporary registration of registered to redacted. And we have some evidence here, some fired shell casings. All right. It was a Heckler & Koch that THF46 Walter had. Some clothing they inventoried as well. All right, getting down to the next document is just notifications for the officers. Seems like a slew of. All right, we have some witnesses here. Seems to be a police officer, one Orlando Sanchez. He was in an unmarked car as well in plain clothes. Some Sergeant Weinberg Wayne working in an unmarked vehicle in plain clothes. Another police officer, unmarked vehicle in plain clothes. Another, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And we have some redactions under there. We have statements, oral and handwritten, by redacted individuals. There's an interview, a canvas of the homicide crime scene, and we have a bunch of redactions. And some people refused. House was vacant. No response, no response. Refused to speak, no phone. A lot of redactions. Okay, we have one individual heard a couple shots but didn't see anything. Redaction, no answer. All right, investigation. The reporting were assigned to this investigation by Sergeant Williams of this command. Reporting detectives responded immediately to the scene to begin their investigation. Upon arrival at the scene, reporting detectives observed the scene to be a residential in nature with multi-unit apartment buildings lining either side of Drexel Boulevard. Drexel Boulevard is separated into northbound and southbound lanes by a large parkway. The scene was located in the southbound lanes in the intersection with 49th Street. In this location, reporting detectives observed two unmarked squad cars at the west corner parked just south of a red Ford. The red Ford had damage to the driver's side of the vehicle. To the east side of the scene, reporting detectives observed a white sheet covering what appeared to be a body. Reporting detectives also observed a semi-automatic pistol in between the body and the cars laying on the street. Reporting detectives further observed two expended shell casings to the west of this gun. This scene was being protected by police personnel and was taped off with crime scene tape. Reporting detectives were then directed to Sergeant Whitbird of the Special Operations Group. Reporting detectives then interviewed Sergeant Wayne Weinberg. Sergeant Weinberg related that he was working BT 4650 in plain clothes and an unmarked with the rest of his squad. He identified them to be police officer Sanchez, Vasquez, Ludowski, and Curry. He related that a confidential informant set up a narcotics deal at 49th and Drexel, and they set up a surveillance at this location. He stated that he was positioned to the west on 49th waiting for the red Ford T-Bird to arrive and the informant to approach the car. A red T-Bird pulls up on 49th Street facing west. Sergeant Weinberg related that Sanchez, who was on foot, signaled the rest of the team that the narcotic transaction was going down and all approach. He related that he pulled up to cut off westbound escape. He related that police officer Vasquez pulled up to the block pulled up to block them in. Sergeant Weinberg explained that BT Ludowski and Curry blocked the northbound escape. Police officer Sanchez was on foot running westbound on 49th across the parkway. Sergeant Weinberg related that the red Thunderbird attempts to back away as the informant runs north on foot and strikes the front of police officer Vasquez's squad car. The driver of the red Ford bails from the car running east directly at police officer Sanchez. Sergeant Weinberg related that he focused on the offenders in the car. Sergeant Weinberg related that he observed the driver flee the car with the gun in his hand. He stated that he heard two shots and then sees the offender on the ground. He further related that he secured the remaining subjects in the car as other units called for EMS. He related that it was at this time that he saw the weapon on the street. He could relate nothing further. Reporting detectives then interviewed police officer Ludowski. He related that he was working the surveillance with police officer Curry in plain clothes. He stated that they were secreted to the north of 49th and Drexel. Right, we have the next document. After they were alerted that the narcotics transaction was occurring, they traveled south and cut across the parkway as they observed a subject running north on Drexel. Ludowski related that he was driving and he got out of the squad car and ordered the subject on the ground. He related that he heard the sound of a crash come from the corner. Ludowski explained that he then observed police officer Curry now start to run south toward the corner. He stated that he was placing the subject into custody when he heard Curry yell for someone to drop it several times and then heard two shots fired. He related that he wasn't sure who fired the shots, but when he turned around, he observed a subject laying on the ground. He could relate nothing further. The reporting then interviewed Police Officer Sanchez. Police Officer Sanchez related that he was working surveillance on foot on 49th Street. He related that he saw the offender's vehicle pull up and saw the CI approach. He related that he gave the signal to approach and he began to run westbound across Drexel. As he approached, he heard the crash and he sees the driver of the vehicle run from the car. Sanchez related that he saw the subject running directly at him and that he had a gun in his hand. Sanchez related that he saw the subject raise his hand holding the gun in his direction. Sanchez related that he heard numerous voices yelling, "Police, stop, drop the gun." He related that he raised his weapon and then he heard 2 shots fired. Sanchez related that he observed the subject go down and realized that he was shot. He related that he immediately ran to the subject and called for EMS. He related that he observed the gun laying next to the subject and secured same where it was laying. EMS came and found no life signs. Police Officer Vasquez was interviewed. He related that he was working the surveillance and was secreted to North. He related that his partner Sanchez was on foot. Vasquez related he heard the signal indicating that a narcotics transaction was taking place and begins to approach. He related that he drove west on 49th Street to block the path of the offending vehicle. Vasquez related that the offending vehicle then begins to back away and strikes the front of his squad. He related that the offending vehicle stops and the driver exits the car and has a gun in his right hand. He related that this subject was running east directly at Police Officer Sanchez. He related that he observed this subject, point the gun at Sanchez. Police Officer Vasquez related that he observed Police Officer Curry running south on Drexel and began to yell, "Police!" Vasquez related that he heard 2 shots, observed the subject fall. He further related that he observed the gun fall to the street. Vasquez related that he began securing the scene. Reporting detectives then interviewed Police Officer Curry. Curry related that he was working the surveillance with his partner Ludowski. He related that they were secreted to the north of 48th Street. He related that after being signaled that the narcotics deal was occurring, they proceeded southbound. He related that they observed a male subject fleeing north on Drexel and they cut across the parkway to cut off the subject's avenue of escape. He related that they stopped this subject and Ludowski placed him into custody. Curry related that he heard a sound of a crash at the corner. Curry stated that he turned toward the sound of the crash and observed the driver of the red Ford fleeing from the vehicle with the gun in his hand. Curry stated that he began to run in the direction of the subject and began yelling, "Police, drop the gun." Curry stated that he observed the subject point the gun in his direction, then point the gun at Police Officer Sanchez. He stated that he yelled, "Police, drop the gun," again. Curry stated that the subject failed to respond to his verbal commands, continued to point the weapon at Police Officer Sanchez. Curry stated that in fear of his life and Police Officer Sanchez's life, he discharged his weapon twice. He related that he observed the subject fall and the gun fall next to him. He related that he immediately ran to secure the area. 9602, forensic investigator Tovar Bembistia arrived on the scene and began processing the same. After all photographic evidence was secured, reporting detectives removed the sheet that was covering the body. Reporting detectives observed this subject to be a male black in his mid-20s. He was dressed in a black Pele jacket, blue jeans with a black belt, a white t-shirt, and white Nike shoes. A check of the victim's pockets revealed $218 U.S. currency in his left front pants pocket and $5 U.S. currency in his right front pants pocket. An Illinois identification card was found in his right rear pocket identifying the subject as Walter Armstrong. It was further observed that the subject had an apparent gunshot wound to the left side of his chest and 2 wounds to the right side of the chest. This subject was transported to the medical examiner's office as found. The evidence was then recovered as listed in the format of this report. Reporting detectives requested that the 2 subjects that were in the red Ford, now known as Redacted and Redacted, and the subject who was apprehended fleeing from the scene, now known as Redacted, be brought to the area, and reporting detectives then returned to the area in furtherance of this investigation. Redacted was interviewed. He related on October 10, 2005, there was a shooting in his neighborhood around 49th and Drexel. He related later on that night, he was stopped by a Chicago police officer in front of his building. Redacted related that the police officer was talking to him about the shooting. Redacted stated that they began talking about how he could get on the police payroll as an informant. Redacted stated that he agreed to help the police get some drugs off the street. Redacted related that the officer he was agreeing to help was named Sergeant Weberg. Redacted related that he told Weberg that he knew of a guy named Walter who sells drugs and that he would call Walter to set up a drug purchase. He related that he told Weberg that at this time the police could come in and arrest Walter and get the drugs. Redacted related that they agreed to have him call Walter and meet him at 49th and Drexel so he could purchase some cocaine from him. Redacted stated that the plan was for him to meet with Walter. He would wait about a minute and then police would arrive. Redacted stated that he was supposed to run away and have the police chase him and arrest him while the other police arrest Walter. He stated that this was so Walter wouldn't think he was set up. Redacted related that he told the police that Walter was known to carry a gun, but he never saw him with one. Redacted related that at approximately 23:20 hours, he used the police officer's phone to call Walter. He stated that they had a conversation and that at the end of the conversation, Walter agreed to sell him 2 8-balls of cocaine. He stated that Walter told him he would be at 49th and Drexel at approximately 23:35 hours. He further related that Walter told him that he would be driving a red Ford Thunderbird. Redacted related that he then left the police and went to 49th and Drexel to meet Walter. Redacted stated that he waited there for about 15 minutes when a red Ford Thunderbird pulled up and he saw Walter in the driver's seat. Redacted stated that there were 2 other guys in the car with Walter. Redacted stated that he walked up and leaned into the passenger's window to talk to Walter. He stated that he asked Walter for the drugs and he pulled 2 8-balls out of his pocket. Redacted stated that after he saw the drugs, he looked up and saw the police cars pulling up. Redacted stated that he said, "Oh shit, the police," and began jogging down the street. Redacted related that one of the police cars came after him while the others cut off Walter's car from the front and back. Redacted related that an officer began yelling at him to get down at gunpoint. Redacted related that he began to go to the ground when he saw Walter's car began to travel backward and hit one of the police cars. Redacted related that the police cars had their lights and sirens on. Redacted related that the next thing he heard was the police yell, "Stop, police, freeze," over and over again. Redacted related that he couldn't see anything at this point, but he heard the police yelling, "Stop, police." Redacted related that the next thing he heard was 2 gunshots. Redacted related that he could relate nothing further. Redacted was interviewed. Redacted related that he was drinking with Armstrong and Redacted before the incident. He has known Armstrong and Redacted for a number of years. They were all in Armstrong's Thunderbird riding around when Armstrong pulled over at 49th and Drexel to talk to a man on the corner. The man then leaned in the window and began having a conversation with Walter. Redacted related that he couldn't hear what the conversation was because the radio was on loud. Redacted stated that during this conversation he heard someone yell, "There go the police," and saw the guy talking to Walter run away. The man then ran north on Drexel and Redacted sees an unmarked police car chase him. Redacted related that the police approached the Thunderbird and Armstrong reverses and hits a car in an attempt to flee. Police officers then approached yelling "police" with drawn guns. Redacted stated that Armstrong then fled the car and heard the police yell "police" and "freeze." Redacted related that he then heard gunshots. Redacted did not see the shooting occur because he was focused on the police officers in front of him. Redacted stated that he did not know that Armstrong was armed or that he had any narcotics. Redacted was interviewed. Redacted related that he was the front seat passenger of the car being driven by Walter Armstrong. He related that Redacted was in the back seat. He stated that the three of them had been drinking for most of the day. He stated that while driving around, Armstrong pulled over at the corner of 49th and Drexel. He stated that a guy came up to his side of the car and began talking to Armstrong. Redacted stated that the guy didn't pay attention to what they were talking about. He stated that an unmarked police car then pulled up in front of Walter's car and a male police officer got out of the car. Redacted stated that he could tell that this subject was a police officer because he had a vest on and his badge was hanging from his neck. He related that the officer began yelling "police, freeze," and Walter put the car in reverse and attempted to get away. He stated that the car hit something and came to a stop. Redacted stated that he put his hands up and kept looking at the officer in front of him. He stated that he then heard 2 gunshots. He stated that he didn't hear or see Walter get out of the car, nor did he see who fired the shots. Redacted stated that he stared at the officer in front of him.
The Felony Review Unit of the Cook County State's Attorney's Office was notified. ASA Patel responded to the area. Once at the area, he was apprised of the facts of the case and given access to all pertinent reports. A roundtable investigation was then conducted. ASA Patel then re-interviewed redacted, redacted, and redacted. They each recounted the event as described earlier in this report. They then each agreed to give a handwritten statement detailing their accounts. On October 11, 2005, the autopsy of Armstrong was conducted by the Cook County Medical Examiner's Office. He determined that the cause and manner of death to be a gunshot wound to the chest. He further recovered one large caliber deformed copper jacketed bullet from the clothing of Armstrong. He further related that the fired bullet struck Armstrong in the upper left chest near the armpit and exited the right chest near the armpit. He related that as the bullet exited the right chest, it struck the inside of the upper right arm, causing an incipient wound there. Wound there. The fired bullet was placed into evidence for examination. Reporting detectives submitted all of the physical evidence detailed in the format of this report to the Illinois State Police for processing. On October 14, 2005, Melissa Nally examined the recovered bullet and the recovered shell casings and found that all were fired from Police Officer Curry's weapon. Reporting detectives request that the aggravated assault of a police officer reported under RD number listed be considered clear closed exceptionally based on the facts of this report. The reporting detectives request that this case be considered clear closed non-criminal. And that's the end of that document, guys. I mean, wow. You guys let me know what you think about this, man. I mean, none of the actual witnesses that weren't police officers stated that he even had a gun on him, but all the other police officers stated he had a gun when he ran out of the car, and then he ups the gun at 2 police officers and only 1 shoots. I don't know, man. You guys let me know what you think down in the comments. Like I said, rest in peace to THF46 Walt, man. And if